Anyway, we're about to, this is the same one as the other one. We're gonna have a look.
Hey guys, it's Shawzo here, and for this video I'm going to be building at Starlight Drive-In. And yeah, as you can see, I've made a massive arena, and I know that I'm not the first person to make an arena in this location, but it's popular for good reason. I think it's the best location for this kind of build. But yeah, I really wanted to give it a try and just see what I can come up with. I'm going to be showing you how I built it all with a tour and a battle at the end. Enjoy guys. So before I start building, I'm actually going to scrap all of the cars, but I'm going to be keeping everything else. And I do actually want to keep the puddle in the middle here, along with all the radioactive barrels, because I think that would look so cool in the arena. And yeah, I don't want to just build over this puddle with a boring floor, I just want to keep like the natural flooring for the arena. Before I start building around it, there's a few skeletons here and there that I want to kind of push into the middle. And yeah, the only way for that is using grenades, so there's a few of them here and there, so I'm just going to try and push them into the puddle because I want these in the arena. I feel quite bad, to be honest. I mean, how would you feel with your skeleton being used as a prop in an arena? Anyways, there's a few mole rats here and there that I want to chuck in there as well. They actually pop up as enemies into the location, so I might as well use them. We're going to start off with a simple foundation, and I'm going to edge it onto the specific curve here, lining it up nicely there, and I'm also going to prop it up as well because the other side of the puddle is much higher than this side. Yeah, I'm going to be building down to the shack area. I don't want to be doing a gigantic arena, I want it to be quite medium sized because I'm going to be doing a few things here and because we've propped it up a bit, and this will open everything at once, so yeah, let's give it a try. Decorations. But yeah, I'm not going to do too much with the actual screen, there's not really a lot I can do with it. I'm really pleased with how it looks. But yeah, as I always say,
You fucking cunt.
Today we are checking out the
Hey man, mom, have fall? Can't wait. Oh yeah. Okay. I had to copy this. I think I probably did it down in somewhere else in the cool one. I swear to God, if there would have been one earlier, I would have it. 400. Negative. Fallout 76 hidden locations. Fallout 76 hidden locations. You motherfuckers. Hold on. Damn it. Jazz. I do need to play some Fallout 4 though.
Never changes.
I'm not trying to hear this fucking music, you cocksuckers. My, yeah, I think this is it where I was. Yeah, this is the island. But we're gonna go to the woods. Maybe like long dark. Ooh.
It's $10 Tuesdays at KFC.
So in this Fallout 76 video, I'm going to be showing you all one of the best public events that you don't want to miss if you see appear on your server, which is Project Paradise. This is a very beneficial event to do, and not to mention, there's a secret within this event to unlock something secretive that a lot of players till this day don't know about. And this event released on March 13th, 2009. So yeah, it's been in the game for a little over 5 years now. This was released before even NPCs ever came into Fallout 76. Just wanted to mention that, just to help put things more in perspective over how secretive this reward is. But yeah, anyways, I figured I'd cover this event specifically just because, for one, it's a really beneficial event to do. There's plenty of other great rewards that you get from this besides just the secretive reward. And for two, a lot of players are confused when they do rewards, which is understandable because it's probably one of the most confusing public events to do. And for three, this event is one of the most fun ones to do once you do understand how to do it. I genuinely enjoy this event. It's actually my favorite one in the game. And I wish more players would show up to this because it does take teamwork to do. That's why I'm deciding to dedicate a whole video over this event to hopefully chain react more players to come to this. Which, speaking of, if you do find this enjoyable, consider leaving a like on the video, and heck, maybe even a comment too, to help boost this in the algorithm so more Fallout 76 players see this and understand that it is worth it to come to this public event when it does appear in the server. But yeah, now let's go ahead and get into this. First things first, let's go ahead and cover the rewards that you get from doing this, just to show that it is rewarding. As you can see, you can get the Arctos lab coat from this. The recipe for Formula P, and what this does is it gives you +5 charisma, +3 luck, and improves your gun accuracy for 5 minutes. Anyways, you also get the plan to craft the bear arm, and you can also get modification plans for the bear arm as well from this. So here is what the bear arm looks like. It's a unique melee weapon. And this thing is pretty powerful, depending on the legendary rolls you get. But yeah, you can also get the
Get the
event to do. There's plenty of other great rewards that you get from this. It's a unique melee weapon. And this thing pretty powerful, depending on the legendary rolls you get with it. But yeah, you can also get the recipes who craft step-back diffusers, and these will restore your health and your nearby teammates. Pretty powerful step-back. Anyways, you also have the potential chance of getting the Arctos Pharma backpack skin from this. This thing looks pretty sweet. And check this out, yo. I know some of you are going to be super excited about this. You remember Nuclear Winter and how it had unique rewards you could get from it? Well, it turns out the developers made it so we can get some of those unique rewards from Nuclear Winter from completing Project Paradise. We can get the plan to craft a gladiator mask from this, and the plan to craft the Inferno Mark 1 power armor paint. Look at this thing. This is an amazing paint job you can put on your power armor. It looks incredible. Also, you can get the plan for the minigun hot rod shark paint. This is an awesome paint job you can get on your minigun. And you can also get a paint plan for the missile launcher. To Yeah, the developers actually made it so we can get some of those old nuclear winter rewards from the Project Paradise event. How amazing is that? But anyways, now since you know what all you can get from this event, now let's go ahead and get into how to do it. So when you first appear at Project
offering the price of Grand Theft Auto 6, whatever Rockstar Games and their parent company and publisher Take-Two Interactive decide to set it at, is going to change gaming forever. We'll be talking about all of that in this video today and a whole lot more. And that concern actually comes from a major player in the video game space, because a Baldur's Gate 3 developer seems to imply that the upcoming Rockstar title is going to cost more than the standard $70. So according to Baldur's Gate 3 developer Michael Deuce, who is the director of publishing for Larian Studios, he actually believes the industry is in a holding pattern until GTA 6 raises the starting entry fee from $70 to something higher. So on social media, Deuce was discussing the price of new video games while sharing a screenshot of what's available in the expensive Ultimate Edition of Star Wars Outlaws.
Few games come close to the level of Agents.
She's so ignorant.
And choice that the Fallout series has to offer. Even the most seasoned wastelanders can get lost in the sprawling amount of paths they can take. So, to make things a little less confusing, we're going to take a look at 10 things you probably didn't know you could do in Fallout 4. Number 1. Go to church. A world as hellish as Fallout 4 can make people abandon the idea of good and evil. After all, what's the point of good and evil when committing a sin could be your only ticket to your next meal? Despite this notion, apparently the Commonwealth is more God-fearing residents than meets the eye. Simply take your favorite human follower to a church and wait around for a little while. After some time, they'll likely sit at one of the church's pews and begin praying, whether for fame, fortune, or just so you don't get them killed. And it may surprise you which companion upstairs. Kate's Irish, so it's no wonder why she'll start praying. However, it's a little more confusing when Nick Valentine does the one-on-one with God, considering he was a creation of man. That is, until you realize the whole thing is a facade. All human companions will start to look busy whenever you're just standing around. If there's something to sweep, they'll sweep. If there's a workbench to use, they'll get crafting. And if there's nothing else to do than sit in a church and begin praying, then they'll do just that. It just helps that the only animation for sitting on a chair is to be in a praying position, which only helps sell the illusion further. I like to think that all my followers became religious after seeing my 10-lug character in action, but that's just me. Number 2. Convince Henry.
Though we know that the Christian faith is still alive and well, that's not to say that the Wasteland has formed religions of its own. Case in point, the followers of Atom. These radiation-worshipping zealots can be found all across the east coast of America. In fact, their faith is so widespread that there's even a sect that'll accept you of all people. In Far Harbor, you can join the followers of Atom living in the nucleus, becoming a sword for this ever-growing faith. And this choice opens up more opportunities than you may have thought. During the quest Liberty Reprimed, you're given the opportunity to boot Liberty Prime back to his former glory. But to do so, you'll need some help.
Fallout audiobook.
After it was a sure thing that America could wipe out a city with just one bomb, a scientist turned to father and said, "Science has now known." After it was a sure thing that America could wipe out a city with just one bomb, a scientist turned to father and said, just one bomb. A scientist turned to father and said, "Science has now known sin." And do you know what father said? He said, "What is sin?"
The discovery of the atomic bomb in the 1940s the question the Fallout series has strived to answer. If ever there would come a day when mankind possessed the capacity to destroy himself, what would come of this? Some predict that this is where our story will end. Yet what if it was only another bloody chapter of human history? You've experienced the Fallout series in your own way, but want to learn more about its story. Well, to get to the heart of the story, you have to go back to the beginning.
It's gonna be a momentary
Change comes to all nations. In the early 20th century, the great powers of the old world thought that their rule would never end. The Tsars of Russia met their downfall at the hands of a bloody revolution. Western Europe fought a great war against fascists who sought to build a Reich that would last 1,000 years. It crumbled in less than a decade. The Japanese believed their imperial rule was eternal, yet they were the first to have their pride seared away by atomic fire. The United States of America emerged as the world's great power by the 1950s. Mass nuclear arsenals. Perpetual status quo, as though the world were freeze-dried and sealed in a vault for a century. Those wandering the wasteland today might find it hard to believe that only 200 years ago, the richest nation in the world existed here. No death laws, no superhumans, no ghouls. Most folk back then didn't have to fight for survival or scavenge supplies. Factories produced everything a person could want by the millions. Walking into a store with a stack of paper money, they could buy as much food, ammo, or clothing as they could carry. In fact, the biggest problem people faced was finding a place to keep it all. Highways stretched 3,000 miles from coast to coast, with roadside diners selling fresh burgers made from something the old world called a cow. Riding in gas-guzzling Chrysler cars and drinking ice-cold soda pop, the Americans enjoyed their prosperity for generations, secure in their belief that their way of life would never alter, that they would never be forced to evolve. Change came slowly at first, and it was welcomed. People weren't satisfied just by the house where fresh water came right out of a pipe in the wall. No, they wanted more. Always more. They wanted robots to do their work for them. They needed electronic computers to do their thinking for them. Companies like Robco filled the demand for domestic robots so that citizens didn't have to lift a finger. A robotic Mr. Handy could walk the dog, do the laundry, and watch over the kids too. giving mom and dad free to spend an evening on the town, or to watch the latest show on the old Radiation King television set. Of course, all these newfangled technological wonders needed power to run. Gasoline had been plentiful for over 100 years, but the Earth had started to run dry by the middle of the 21st century. More and more of the power came from atomic energy, and thanks to companies like General Atomics, there were atoms to spare for decades to come. Cities lit up, robots kept on humming, and computer monitors kept glowing. Some factories even started turning out atomic-powered cars with fuel cells that still have some juice in them today. So don't go using those rusted old Corvegas for target practice. Factories churned out toys for the kids. Teddy bears, tricycles, comic books by the ton. Dad was the Coca-Cola, and Mom had new spring fashions every year. Shelves were filled with snack cakes, canned meats, and sugar-coated cereals. All of it pumped full of preservatives so that it would stay fresh forever, and Mom wouldn't have to take so many trips to the grocery store. When it came to consumption, the Americans were the best. Yet, even with the increased use of atomics, there wasn't enough energy for the billions of people across the world. Oil was more precious than ever, and the petroleum-rich countries of the Middle East sold their dwindling supplies at ever higher prices. Eventually, the wells ran dry in most of the world. The uranium mines were scraped clean, but no one wanted to give up their shiny new technology. Change had come, and with it, war. The Middle East could have used their limited uranium stock to power reactors for a few decades, but instead, they squandered it on weapons to settle its stores. The European Commonwealth had been proud of how they had joined together in one glorious unified state. It didn't take long before they turned on each other, scrambling for the last drops of oil within their borders. Alaska, with its abundance of natural resources, remained the source of America's power, and the only place on Earth where oil still flowed. The far-off territory was a tempting target for a desperate China. The Americans foresaw invasion and fortified Alaska, but nothing could deter China from capturing Anchorage. With the two remaining superpowers at war, Canada was trapped in the middle and soon annexed by their neighbors to the south. Allegedly, this was so that the entire continent could be one continuous nation allied against the Chinese invaders. But Canadians viewed it as a ruthless bid for America to retain control of the world's remaining oil supply. The resource wars had come to American soil. In a resource war, the winner will always be the side that fights most efficiently. China used the greatest minds of the East to create stealth technology that allowed their recon teams to infiltrate and assassinate while remaining completely undetected, taking down high-value targets with a single shot. America had its own brand of eccentric genius. With the power of the atom in hand, unbridled American engineers created scientific marvels the rest of the world couldn't have imagined. The glut of consumer electronics that had flooded American stores were only the beginning of the wonders created by the likes of Robco and Poseidon Energy, whose true focus was the development of new weapons that could replace the inefficient tools of warfare used in past decades. Combat robots, energy weapons, and cybernetics entered the war as America sought to retake Anchorage. Battles were fought by daring men who fired nuclear warheads from shoulder-mounted crossbows. Cyber dogs with the brain of a loyal hound encased in an unyielding titanium body. Even robot butlers hovered across battlefields, armed with plasma guns and flamethrowers. There was even a plan to engineer a new breed of mutant super soldiers, but it was the creation of power armor that ensured American victory. Power armor combined the mobility of an infantry soldier with the resilience of a tank, and the firepower of an entire squad, fueled by microfusion cells. These elite troops could inflict crippling strikes on Chinese military assets, using a fraction of the resources of conventional military units. Early models of power armor were devastating enough, and after a decade of refinement, the T-51B power armor represented the height of pre-war combat technology. With the aid of these perfected armored suits, America quickly liberated their territory from the Chinese. In the modern day, the T-51B has become a symbol of the Brotherhood of Steel, but centuries ago, it was the final majestic icon of American exceptionalism. By autumn of 2077, the overt conflicts in the Pacific were finished, and most Americans were so tired after a decade of war that they genuinely believed peace had arrived. The paranoid, or perhaps just perceptive, began stocking their bomb shelters, knowing that China would not simply slink away across the ocean in defeat. final confrontation was coming. In an effort to preserve at least part of humanity from the inevitable end that approached, a secret enclave of America's elite set about ensuring survival at all costs. Victory? Rebuilding? No longer viable options. Their full intent is lost to history, but documented plans include taking refuge or an oil field and launching a ship into space to find a new planet to colonize.
Oil rig would be
The modern
nice.
enclave claimed to be the descendants of that last group of America's elite. It might be true, although many residents of the wasteland would argue that it takes more than a flag and a squadron of vertibirds to be a government of the people. Regardless of whether or not the enclave's claims are true, the majority of America's population did not have access to offshore bases or secret mountaintop fortresses. Fortunately for 100,000 of them, the Vault-Tec Corporation provided access to radiation-proof shelters that could each keep about 1,000 people safe while waiting for conditions on the surface to calm down. Nowhere near enough to save everyone, but it offered hope and kept the public from panicking. On October 23, 2077, alarms rang across the United States, signaling an attack. There had been plenty of false alarms and training drills over the years, and it isn't hard to imagine war-weary citizens shrugging their shoulders and going on with their day, unaware that this was really the apocalypse they had feared. Perhaps people laughed when they saw their neighbors racing to Vault-Tec facilities. The lucky and privileged few who had been assigned a place within one of the vaults might have felt silly when the massive doors rolled shut. They were among the tiny fraction of humanity that could still feel anything at all when the bombs landed. Historians still don't know much about what happened outside the vaults that day. People weren't concerned with writing in their journals. Hard as it is to believe, there are still ways to hear first-hand accounts of the pre-war times. The sources aren't exactly reliable, though. A few rotten old ghouls claim to have been alive back then. Most of them are just telling tales, hoping to get someone to tell them for a while. There are a few scientists who managed to preserve their brains in jars before the war, too. Some of those old brains are still alive today, might be able to discuss the old days, assuming that any of them are still sane after being a disembodied brain for 2 centuries. The right medical equipment has kept at least one person alive since before the war. Trouble is, a man with that kind of will to live isn't going to take chances by chatting with strangers. Knowing how people lived before the war can help the wasteland tremendously. Scavengers and research teams dig up all sorts of things that can't be identified. Any rusty old box could hold an ancient secret to providing clean water, or fresh food, or limitless electricity to the wasteland. At the very least, the modern world could learn from the mistakes of the past. The Americans never truly believed that their way of life could come to such an abrupt end. But change comes to all nations, to all people, all ways of life. The only constant in man's struggle for survival is war. Because war never changes.
Shopify helps you sell at every stage
Oh,
of your
shut the
business.
fuck
Like
up.
that.
We're not
Let's
advertising
go.
for you cunts.
The discovery of the atomic bomb in the 1940s has given humanity a question the Fallout series has strived to answer. You've experienced the Fallout series in your own way, but want to learn more about its story. Well, to get to the heart of the story, you have to go back to the beginning.
Go back.
We're also your first choice in personal defense. Upon leaving the vault, you may find your neighbors on the surface have changed a lot while you were away. Little Sally Sue, for instance, is gone. And in her place, we see Mr. Scary. Mr. Scary is not our friend. Here at Vault-Tec, your safety is our #1 concern. So we're here to help any post-nuke mutations go away. Introducing the Mutant Blaster R88, the latest in mutation-removing technology. Simply point this patented device in the direction of the threat, pull the easy-to-use trigger, and watch as Mr. Scary goes away. Forever. Results may vary.
When the Great War annihilated civilization, the survivors lost their loved ones, their homes, and their worship goods. They abandoned a daily search for food, water, and
Fucking
medicine.
Andy.
They also had to seek out their lost identities. People have always defined themselves by the work they do, the place they live, the things they own. The Great War, it wasn't just buildings that were destroyed. Entire cultures were erased from history. The brutal years that followed, the survivors had to define themselves again, find meaning in their existence, or face a metaphorical loss of their humanity. But a much more literal threat to their humanity was already in place, waiting quietly beneath the desert for someone to stumble across it. Someone did, nearly a century after the war, and that threat came closer to extinguishing humanity than all the bombs and guns of the old wars. A single neutron passing through a strand of DNA can cause a cancerous tumor, but a lifetime of exposure to unprecedented amounts of atomic fallout will have wildly unpredictable results. After a few generations of passing on this defective DNA, the species will begin to mutate. That explains many of the strange beasts running around the wasteland, but not all of them. There's a different strain of mutant out there. They're shaped like men, but bigger. Some of them are more dangerous than Deathclaws, stronger than a man in power armor. They call themselves super mutants. They're not the result of random contact with radiation, but rather a deliberate act of genetic tampering. Holotapes unearthed in pre-war military installations show that the United States government started out with good intentions. Rival nations had attacked America with biological weapons, resulting in a new plague. America's leaders created their own defensive virus. The plan, originally, was to make a germ that would mutate America's population just enough that they would become immune to the viruses. In a sense, this forced evolutionary virus worked, but the effects were much more drastic than anticipated. The animal test subjects mutated by it were not only resistant to common biological weapons, they also grew stronger and more intelligent, but monstrously deformed. In Maryland, the virus was placed in a vault and used as part of their cruel experiments. According to files recovered from a Vault-Tec mainframe, the people who took shelter in that vault were exposed to the virus by their own overseer, the very man assigned to protect them after the bombs fell. After escaping the war, these people suffered even worse than those trapped on the surface. The mutation process is painful, and most people exposed to the virus die a horrible death that they don't even recognize as their own. They often wish they hadn't, because their very humanity is taken from them. Whatever they look like before mutating, they transform into an enormous ball. That sudden loss of identity would enrage almost anyone. Maybe with enough therapy, a person could come to terms with their new body. But most of the poor creatures suffered from another side effect: reduced cognitive capability. Despite the virus's potential to increase intelligence in some people, most of the super mutants on the East Coast were just plain stupid. In fact, many of their brains were too small to perform even basic autonomic functions like breathing. For those that survived, there were some positive trade-offs. Their strength increased tremendously, as did their size. Even the small ones are nearly 10 feet tall. In the capital wasteland, these beasts continue growing throughout their existence. Wanderers have reported fighting super mutants that are 15 feet tall, and foolhardy adventurers have pumped hundreds of bullets from assault rifles into mutant overlords without breaking them down. Scouts from the Brotherhood of Steel even claim to have fought super mutants that are 20 feet tall and can survive a direct hit from a mini nuke. The only factor that keeps them in check. They're infertile and cannot reproduce. At least not the way that they did when they were still human. The first mutants created in that horrid vault might not have been as intelligent as the humans who created them, but they had strength and righteous fury on their side. The mutants turned on their creators, transformed them into the next generation of super mutants. And in time, the vault was nothing but mutants, alone, undying, and just intelligent enough to know that they had been betrayed by humanity. Forcibly stripped of their humanity, robbed of their ability to reason, transformed into massive brutes, they were an angry horde. Rage and boredom are an unstable mixture, and eventually that vault burst. Hundreds of super mutants emerged into a wasteland where their enhanced physical abilities made them better suited to survive than the humans around them. The disorganized humans had only one advantage, and that was their numerical superiority. Outnumbered and unable to breed, the mutants were still cunning enough to understand that they had to boost their ranks by exposing them to the virus. Further west, things were more complicated. California and the West Coast had their share of trouble with super mutants. But those mutants, they didn't just suddenly pop out of the wall and rampage like mindless savages. The wasteland's core region were the result of a misguided plan to set the world right. The mutant army was smart enough to scour the lands for new humans to mutate, and to select people with little exposure to radiation. Using humans with DNA undamaged by radioactivity meant they were more likely to keep their intelligence after mutating. The size and capability of this inhuman swarm, always hungry for the purest human DNA, to serve as the building blocks of a master race. This was before the new California Republic had solidified, before the Enclave chose to reveal itself, back when the Brotherhood of Steel kept their technology closely guarded. There was nothing to stand against an army with such organization, such single-mindedness, such unity. Who they had been before no longer mattered. The super mutants were divided by old world notions of race. They did not bicker over religious beliefs. They all worshipped the same dark god and claimed that they could hear his voice in their heads. Did this dark god exist? Were the mutants led by some cunning mutant general? Could the master race have a master of its own? Someone or something was certainly behind this new unity movement. No doubt, through much trial and error, this dark god created generations of flawed beasts before finally discovering that
where I got lost at one time and I didn't realize it was just on the other side.
Low levels of radiation exposure.
I don't think I had a map though.
Access to pre-war computers revealed that the wasteland held secret communities of uncontaminated vault dwellers whose genes had been preserved for generations deep beneath the earth, where the radioactive fallout couldn't reach them. It's ironic that the mutant was done in by the actions of one of these vault dwellers. Regardless of how it happened, with their master gone, the mutant army scattered. The former elite guard of the mutant army had taken the fall of their master the hardest, and had become an unpredictable menace. These Nightkin, as they call themselves, were once the best of their species, augmenting their strength and cunning with pre-war stealth technology. They're usually still in possession of the rare stealth boy devices, and use them without concern for the harmful effects of prolonged exposure. After decades of constant use, their minds have degenerated, their skin is darkened to a distinctive gray, they're plagued by hallucinations and imaginary friends. Often their jabbering is the only sign that one is nearby. Due to their tendency to appear in unexpected places and engage in bizarre behavior, a single Nightkin can be more dangerous than a group of their green-skinned brethren. Some super mutants have formed their own communities, following charismatic leaders across the wasteland. Turn the radio to the right frequency in the right parts of Nevada. There's a broadcast coming from a mutant girl who thinks she can take the master's place and guide the mutants to a new utopia. Although she has gathered many followers, her mental instability ensures that this is unlikely. Some wanderers even speak of outright friendly super mutant companions who approach them as friends and
what was just over here?
given their resilience and long lives, these
I wasn't even paying attention that one time when I was looking at this world, and I was trying to find what, because I had just used this map, and it was that one with the island with the dinosaurs, lost on a survival island or whatever.
will always reduce people to fighting among themselves. Perhaps that dark god was right. What the wasteland really needs is more unity. If the super mutants do ever form another army, likely to find the wasteland a little more of a challenge this time around. Since their master fell, the world has become a more crowded place. There are other, better equipped factions of humanity, ready to challenge any newcomers for the spoils of the old world.
Oh.
But that is a story for another day.
Oh.
Well, to get to the heart of the story, you have to go back. A wise soldier knows that it isn't the weapon that matters most, the hand that wields it. Army equipped with the finest weapons certainly has the advantage in battle. What happens when battle is over? Over the millennia, the tools of war have changed. Bronze, iron, then steel, and eventually plutonium. Mankind grows ever more capable, always less capable of using those weapons responsibly. There are those who feel that no one is responsible enough to wield power such as mankind had during the Great War. And then there are those who feel that they alone are worthy. Travelers and merchants in the wasteland have seen towering soldiers in suits of metal armor marching off to battle, laser rifles slung over their shoulders. These are members of the Brotherhood of Steel. It is easy to distinguish them from other armored warriors by their pre-war power armor. Those T-51B armored suits aren't just plates of metal strapped to their bodies. Steel's armor is a fusion-powered artifact designed before the Great War. It augments their strength, protects them from harm, and marks them as members of an elite order. The Brotherhood of Steel is among the most technologically advanced factions of the Wasteland. They're relatively few in number when compared to vast armies like the New Caledonia Republic and Fourth Legion. What the Brotherhood lacks in numbers, they make up for in raw power and indomitable courage. The Brotherhood can trace its history back to the Great War. Long before the military base in Mariposa, California gave rise to the Super Mutant Army, it was a research facility. In the days leading up to the Great War, there was a small contingent of soldiers assigned to guard the base and its loads of weapons. That loyal band of men didn't know they were protecting a horribly unethical group of scientists engaging in unfathomable experiments. They only knew that it was an important project, that they were there doing their part to fight the good fight and keep their country safe. Eventually, they did learn the awful truth of the forced evolutionary virus, that the base they were guarding was being used to experiment on human test subjects, inmates from military prisons. The knowledge that they unknowingly participated in these atrocities, the many of their own brothers in arms no less, stretched their loyalty to the breaking point. Colonel Spindell, their commanding officer, was unable to cope with this fact. Just a few days after the truth was revealed, he committed suicide, leaving his second command, Captain Roger Maxson, to deal with the aftermath. Today, the Brotherhood looks up to Roger Maxson with religious reverence. Perhaps Maxson was destined to carry the fire of humanity, or he may have simply had the right balance of honor and pragmatism needed to lead men through the apocalypse. Maxson took it upon himself to take control of the base, ordering the interrogations of the science teams to maintain a semblance of order. As he started to believe that the project was backed knowingly by his government, he attempted to contact his superiors for a response, even going so far as to declare secession from the Union. At the same time, he and his soldiers then gathered their families with them, readied themselves inside their remote base. They waited for a response, any kind of response, anticipating that their own government would never tolerate such an outright insurrection and would have to come and provide answers. But the response never came. Unbeknownst to Maxon, the Great War was already brewing, even as he staged his revolt. If anyone in the government knew about Maxon's rebellion, they no longer cared. The base at Mariposa proved to be a reliable shelter against the onslaught of the atomic war. Maxon, his loyal troops, and their families were among the survivors. His own wife and son were at Maxon's side, and the understanding that his children would live in whatever world he left behind must surely have influenced his actions in the days ahead. Humanity is a stubborn species, not one to die out easily, but mankind's knowledge, civilization, technology can easily disappear once living memory had passed. Would Captain Maxon's descendants run barefoot through the desert, hunting food with stone spears? Or they stride through the wasteland, clad in power armor, felling their enemies with beams of light and fire? It was not a difficult choice to make as Maxon led his troops and their families from the Mariposa base to a hidden military bunker in what is now called the Lost Hills. There they used what materials they had gathered to build a place of refuge and learning. They preserved their military discipline and technological knowledge from generation to generation, carrying the fire, even if it was hidden beneath the desert. The Brotherhood limited their contact with other survivors, primarily trading for food and other essentials with technology they recovered or made. Sequestered with their precious laser rifles, computers, and power armor, they kept the most fragile of old-world technologies alive, but hoarded that knowledge to themselves. The tribal societies on the surface that had saved pre-war equipment found it wearing out over time. Spare parts were used up, and no one had the capacity to manufacture anything new. As the years turned to decades, technology grew more and more rare. The understanding of how to use it began to disappear, even as people learned how to hunt with spears and cook rad scorpions. In time, Maxon's son assumed command as the High Elder, and his son after him. Other respected members of the Brotherhood form a council of elders beneath the High Elder, traditionally descendant of the Maxon line. Although sometimes the role of High Elder has fallen to a distinguished paladin, life within the Brotherhood still uses elements of the pre-war American military with a strict hierarchical structure. Although there are many ranks within the Brotherhood, the three main branches of the organization are the Scribes, the Knights, and the Paladins. Scribes are responsible for scientific research and preservation of ancient knowledge. At one point, they focused on preservation, but the Brotherhood has grown less concerned with chronicling history than with the development of new weaponry. The title of Knight once referred to armored warriors who fought battles while mounted on an extinct species of animal called a horse. Those Knights are a far cry from the Knights of the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood, a Knight is responsible for building, repairing, and maintaining the weapons designed by the Scribes. Should a Knight distinguish themselves, they can eventually become a Paladin. The majority of the Brotherhood personnel seen by outsiders are Paladins. These elite soldiers cut a swath through the raiders, mutants, and tribal barbarians that stand between the Brotherhood and the technology they desire. While the Brotherhood is eager to fight any bandits or raiders that they come across, they're reluctant to assist the residents of the wasteland in any significant manner. They view most outsiders as intellectual inferiors, unfit to receive
I'm gonna fucking kill you, idiots.
Many people have attempted to join the Brotherhood, only to be sent on a suicidal errand to recover artifacts from heavily irradiated regions of the wasteland. Their arrogance is nearly their own doing on several occasions. When the super mutants, the Brotherhood Scribes were the first to determine they were a new form of mutant and a clear threat. Yet, it was not a Brotherhood Paladin that defeated the mutants. It was a mere wanderer accompanied by a mongrel dog. Much later, the Brotherhood's view that they alone should be allowed to control the wasteland's technology led them to wage a brutal war against the powerful new California Republic. Despite their technological advantage, the Brotherhood lost the war. Nowhere was this defeat more severe than in the Mojave Wasteland. Garrisoned at a pre-war solar power station, the elder of the Mojave chapter attempted to unlock its dark secrets to use against the NCR in the war. Before he could do so, the NCR forced a confrontation. Outnumbered 10 to 1, the Brotherhood was forced to retreat after losing half the chapter and the disappearance of their elder. The defeat at Helios was a crippling blow for the Brotherhood. After that, the Mojave chapter of the Brotherhood left the NCR alone and retreated back to their old base in the valley. There they can tend to their computers and ray guns as much as they like. They still send the occasional Paladin up to member as a traveling companion for a while. They can demonstrate that their cause is of value to the Brotherhood. And, well, maybe a few travelers will warm themselves by a campfire and an old scribe tell his tales of the wild wasteland to anyone who will listen. Although the Brotherhood of Steel has seen better days, they're nonetheless a pivotal factor in conflicts affecting core regions. Records back at Lost Hill show that there's also a disavowed branch of the Brotherhood who struck out east and took it upon themselves to defend the nation's former capital from the supermutants. But that is a story for another day. Experience the Fallout series in your own way, but want to learn more about its story. Well, to get to the heart of the story, you have to go back to the beginning.
Just the strength to lead, but the strength to follow. Not just strength in numbers, but the strength of brothers. There is nothing on this green earth stronger than the Brotherhood of Steel. Because there is nothing on this green earth stronger than Lady Liberty. Democracy is non-negotiable. Join the Brotherhood. Courage today. Victory tomorrow.
I want victory
the
now.
wasteland stretches from one horizon to the other, and very few people can say that they have walked at all. If a traveler sets out from the boneyard on the west coast and walks towards the rising sun in the east, it would take months before they reach the other ocean. It used to take a lot less time. Some of the old flight records at airfields say that people would fly back and forth across the entire country in an afternoon. Not many of those flying vehicles made it through the Great War intact, and the people who use them aren't likely to take on passengers. The roads used to be smoother, and people built a steel bridge over every little river that got in their way. Even when folks didn't have the time to fly from one city to the next, they could still communicate over great distances. At the time of the Great War, this was done through wireless satellite transmissions. But even 400 years ago, people could communicate all the way across the country with a network of wires that were strung up on poles that lined the highways and railroad tracks.
Get the fuck
Some
over
of
there.
those poles are still standing today. The wires don't go anywhere anymore. So today, you want to know what's happening on the other side of the horizon? There's only one way to find out. Go see for yourself. Lots of people go their whole lives without traveling more than a few days' walk from the village.
Oh,
where they
paper.
were born.
Oh, no.
But
That's right.
organizations like the Brotherhood of Steel, long-distance travel and communication are on the front burner. The Brotherhood of Steel has taken it upon themselves to preserve the technology of the old world. There's plenty of old gizmos and gadgets out in New California. The truth is, the capital of this nation used to be out on the East Coast. A few decades ago, in 2254, the Brotherhood dispatched a military contingent to the east to recover advanced technologies from cities and bases dotting the eastern seaboard. The Brotherhood sent teams east before, to Chicago, and some folks say they planned a mission to Boston. The Capital Expedition was one of the most ambitious projects the Brotherhood had ever undertaken. A promising paladin named Owen Lyons was chosen to lead a force that would learn what had become of Washington and the surrounding area. After months on the road, the first reports from Lyons weren't promising. They passed through a hellhole that was appropriately named the Pit. This pit of human misery fared worse than most after the Great War. Pittsburgh is what they used to call it back then. Lyons led a scourge of the city.
You fucking nigger.
Fought back. Something was recovered that day, but only the Elder knows what it was. When the Brotherhood left the Lions led a scourge of the city, killing any who fought back. Something was recovered that day, but only the Elder knows what it was. When the Brotherhood left the desolate city behind, the caravan carried killing any who fought back. Something was recovered that day, but only the Elder knows what it was. When the Brotherhood left the desolate city behind, the caravan carried 20 unmutated children saved by the troops. This was the first of many unconventional moves for Paladin Lions. He not only rescued those children, but he defied tradition and made them initiates in the Brotherhood. Most of the people in the Brotherhood are born into it, descended from their ancestors that helped form the Order 2 centuries earlier. Taking in an outsider is extremely rare for any Brotherhood chapter, but to recruit a group of children descended from irradiated scavengers and slaves, to some, that made Lions a hero. To others, a pragmatic leader who needed the extra hands, and a few people saw him as a mongrel-loving traitor to the Brotherhood. The capital expedition didn't stop with Pitt. They pressed on into a region called Maryland, fighting raiders and slavers wherever they found them, until they came to what was once the capital city of this land. What they found didn't fill them with hope. Aside from slavers, raiders, and feral ghouls, there were also some full of rage and ready to attack on sight. This was nearly 100 years after the Master Super Mutant Army had been scattered, and Washington had the worst infestation of them Lions and his soldiers had seen. The disorganized band of humans were no match for the mutants. Out east, people live in pathetic little villages built in the ruins of highway on-ramps, the basements of pre-war monuments, and even some crazy folks. The town had the husk of a bomber plane, complete with a nuclear bomb right in the town. There was no organization that could stand against the mutants. The Brotherhood fought their way into the center of Washington, hoping that some remnants of the federal government might be there. The whole town was mutants through and through, dug in right in front of museums that housed priceless artifacts from the old days. Mutants walking the halls of the old Capitol building where great men and women had laws that defined their civilization. And the biggest letdown of all was a building with 5 sides. It used to be the headquarters of America's military back when the Lions found the building had been hit pretty hard. Just 5 crumbling walls around a courtyard. That's when the Brotherhood's luck turned. Those folks that built this Pentagon built parts of it to last. And deep inside the roots of that building, the Brotherhood found a treasure trove of pre-war intel, equipment, weapons, and best of all, a giant killer robot. His name was Liberty Prime. He was built to instill fear in the hearts of America's enemies 200 years ago. Liberty Prime could crush a soldier in power armor. He could throw nuclear bombs like footballs. His eyes fired beams of electric death. All the while, he spouted propaganda to terrify his communist foes and inspire his allies. He was the best toy any Brotherhood scribe could ask for. Liberty Prime never got to fight the commies he hated so much. A machine that big with integrated energy weapons and computing power to control it all autonomously. It was too much even for America's most fanciful engineers. It took the Brotherhood's most brilliant scribes years to get the thing right.
Scribes?
The Brotherhood's most brilliant scribes 20 years to get the thing running. Running.
Weird. Scribes write. Like scribble.
Lions and his followers fought a hard
Probably not in this case.
against the super mutant scourge through Lake Washington. They built up the ruins of the old Pentagon into a fortress that they called the Citadel. They recruited the locals to bolster their ranks, built up the finest army that Washington had seen in 200 years. The goal of plundering pre-war military installations became less important to Lions. How to best defend the people around him filled his waking thoughts. For time, some members of the Brotherhood felt that Lions had abandoned their original goal, covering the lost technologies of America's capital. That included the main chapter of the Brotherhood back west, but also some of Lions' own men. These men abandoned Lions, formed a band of outcasts, weapons and equipment are among the best available in the wasteland. Their patrols are augmented with combat robots that pack a mean punch.
Oh my gosh.
These two factions of the Brotherhood and Capital Wasteland tend to stay away from each other. Travelers don't want to be anywhere nearby. Can't. The sad thing is, the average settler can't tell the difference between the Brotherhood and the outcasts. They're all just
Okay, thanks. You guys, hold on. I need to make up. I'm going in the deep woods. It's gonna be cold there. I'll be right back, mate. some cafe. Almost done, y'all.
armored suit shooting each other with ray guns. To most people in the capital wasteland, the politics don't matter. They don't care who's killing the mutants and raiders. They just want the trade caravans to run on time. Maybe that's why the citizens of the capital wasteland didn't make that much of a fuss when the Enclave set up shop in the capital as well. To them, the Enclave was just another group of tin soldiers with laser rifles talking high ideals. How does someone scavenging through a pile of rusty cans tell the difference? To the average wastelander, the Enclave's propaganda machine is something to disregard. All just words to someone who won't make it through the night without a dose of Radaway. The Brotherhood of Steel knew the Enclave was trouble right from the start. Eventually, hit the head with unlike anything seen before. Even if the wastelanders didn't understand why they were fighting. But that is a story for another day. You've experienced the Fallout series in your own way. You've experienced the Fallout series in your own way. You want to learn more about its story. Well,
Open up!
lessons are never learned. There's always flourish the parody.
California, here I come, yeah!
You've experienced the Fallout. Went head-to-head with them in a battle unlike anything seen before, even if the Wastelanders didn't understand why they were fighting. But that is a story for another day. You've experienced the Fallout series in your own way, but want to learn more about its story. Well, to get to the heart of the story, you have to go back to the beginning.
7 days.
As far as anyone knows, this wasteland is the best damn wasteland in the world. When America and China went head-to-head 200 years ago, both sides launched everything they had. Most people assumed that China was blasted back to the Stone Age. The only way to know for sure is to jump in a boat and paddle across the ocean. So folks just assumed that China, Europe, Canada, and the rest of the world got hit at least as bad as America did. People look out at this land, and some of them just know in their hearts that it's the garden spot of the whole world. Maybe that's why we can't go more than a few decades without someone trying to take over the place. When humanity was just beginning the struggle to rebuild after the war, there was no sign of the government helping out. People formed tribes led by the strongest warriors and the smartest scavengers. The chain of command and the line of succession meant nothing to people who needed things done fast. The closest thing to a government that emerged was tribal elders, or the mayors of small villages. In 2189, some of the larger towns in California banded together and formed the new California Republic, but they never claimed to be the government. With no communications from the pre-war government for over a century, the memory of it faded as new generations replaced the old, convinced the old president and his kind were long dead, but the wasteland ain't so lucky. 200 years ago, the last days before the Great War, a secret coterie of America's top-ranking political and corporate leaders decided to duck and cover big time. They scurried right off the continent, hid inside a secret offshore base, then cowered there while the rest of the country suffered a nuclear holocaust the government had caused. There they stayed, safe and hidden for decades. The group we know today as the Enclave is the result of 10 generations of breeding between politicians, military brass, and corporate executives. The direct descendants of the people who caused the apocalypse? Not many people would make up a story like that, so it's probably safe to take them at their word about their ancestors. Regardless of who their great-grandparents were, the Enclave certainly has access to an abundance of pre-war tech and weapons. They forted it on a man-made island, a metal city that grew out of the ocean floor. It was once used to refine oil, back when people could pull oil right out of the bottom of the sea. The Poseidon oil rig was inaccessible to people on the mainland, so no one knew they were out there until they began their plan to rid the wasteland of everyone who didn't fit their definition of a real American.
What?
The Enclave had spent decades learning to improve upon pre-war weaponry.
Rap
They
survival
weren't just
add-on.
collecting artifacts in the
Oh,
old world
fuck.
like the Brotherhood. They were looking toward the future. They had devices more advanced than anything seen in the wasteland, including the Brotherhood. It wasn't just better guns, or the Ginchiest armor. The Enclave had a fleet of flying vehicles they called vertibirds. Most folk had never even seen a car move unless it was hitched to a team of Brahmin, so these vertibirds...
Push light, jack lane.
The fuck out of here with that shit. Nope.
Yo, those are
Hello? Hair a witch.
Minecraft Hardcore Survival Raft. Minecraft Survival Raft add-on. You fucking niggers. God damn you. You know what, you guys, I'll be right back. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out. Thank you for watching. See ya.